I believe to the core of my being, it's entrepreneurs who are going to save the world. Someone who sees a need and then tries to fulfill that need, or someone who says, "Hey, I think I can do this better than the other person," right? Or I have a sense of, I have a story that needs to be told too, and they start telling it, right? So for me in particular, my background is in nonprofit,
Okay.
um, mainly with a faith-based ministry type deal. And I learned real quick, it's easy to put on a show, but behind the scenes, do you really practice what you preach?
You're listening to The Mindful Hustle, the podcast where you blend mindset, identity, and manifestation to fuel business breakthroughs. I'm Donnie, and if you know deep down that your inner world creates your outer results, welcome home. Quantum theory and multiple manifestation studies suggest that your beliefs literally collapse potential realities into form. In other words, you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. That's the work we do at Reality Realization Institute, aligning your identity with the version of you that already has everything you desire. Book your free strategy call at realityrealization.org/call. Now, let's get into today's conversation. Today's guest is Dan Shaker, a visionary who believes in the power of purpose-driven leadership. He envisions a world where leaders are not only growing their businesses, but also fueling the economy and creating real impact, human to human. In this episode, we explore the mindset behind building with meaning, leading with heart, and turning vision into tangible impact. Thank you, Dan, for joining on with us today.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let's start here. I'm curious to know in your life and your journey so far, were there any moments that you experienced, whether that was in your personal life, your business, anything related, when something just clicked and everything changed, perhaps a mindset shift or a realization that really reshaped your path?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think there was a 3 or 4 week span when I was a senior in high school that just kind of rocked my world. On my 18th birthday, I was on a retreat with my church youth group. We went whitewater rafting. We were going through this first kind of rapid. And if you've ever done whitewater rafting before, which I hadn't and I haven't since, but one of the things they tell you is that if you fall out of the raft, right, don't try to stand up, don't try to swim, just kind of lay back, get your feet up so you don't get stuck in a rock, and just let the current kind of take you, right? And so on my 18th birthday, we're doing the whitewater rafting and we're going through the first rapid of the day, which is like, I hate to admit it, was like a low grade rapid,
Mhm.
right? It had rained a ton. The water level was pretty high. The current was moving a little faster than normal. And these rafts were kind of going through this one pass a little faster than they anticipated. And rafts started bumping up against each other. And so what happened was at 18, I got thrown out of the raft and I did what the training told me to do, right? I put my feet up and I was gliding through the rapid and I'm above water, I'm going a little bit below water, I'm above water, and I get below, and then next thing I know, I'm below water. And I reach up and I can just feel the raft right on top of me. Well, somehow I went under and then my raft went right on top of me.
Mhm.
Luckily, I had the sense of mind, like it's one of those things where they say like life can flash right before your eyes. It was like a combination of that, and then it felt like an eternity down there, right? I'm sure it was only a few seconds, but it was like it was going fast and slow at the same time. It was this weird dynamic.
Mhm.
But I couldn't get above water. I couldn't breathe. And so luckily I was able to find the edge of the raft. I grabbed onto the side rope, and the people that were in my boat grabbed my arm, pulled me up, and I was able to get back into the raft. But that was a very scary moment where I just thought it might be over. And
Wow.
that's a life altering your mind. Talk about a paradigm shift. You don't look at life the same way. And a lot of people were shooken up that day. It just wasn't me that had a tragic story. And luckily, everybody was okay. No one was badly injured physically. I mean, I think it played a mental toll on a lot of people, but that's one of those moments, right?
Hmm.
And ironically, the next day we decided to go spelunking, right? Again, in a very elementary way, but my foot got stuck trying to cross this path. And they were warning us, don't be stupid. Don't be like a normal 18-year-old. Like in order to be old and wise, you got to be young and dumb, right? And I think I was still young and dumb. Well, my foot got stuck, and now I just had a near-death experience the day before. Now I'm like stuck in this cave, and I got all these flashlights on me. Like, what do we do? Luckily, I think we were probably being a little over dramatic, but I was able to take my shoe off, get
Uh-huh.
the shoe out, and kind of move on. But again, it was just an intense, like when it rains, it pours type of situation. 2 or 3 weeks after that, it was September 11th, 2001.
Wow.
The planes went into the two towers. And talk about it was just a series of events in a short period of time that I think caused me to think a little bit differently than maybe I would have had those events not happened. Right.
Yeah.
And so those are a few events or a few moments where it just kind of clicked. And I thought, you know what, the normal 9 to 5, the Monday through Friday, sitting in a cubicle every day is probably not going to be what I'm passionate about because I had a real sense of urgency. I always had this sense of urgency, right?
Hmm.
In this thought process of, well, what's the worst that can happen? Because well, the worst probably already happened, right? So living life on your terms and you dictating the outcome of that. And if the old Milton Berle quote is, if opportunity is not there, build a door kind of mentality, I think comes back to a moment or a 3, 4 week span so long ago.
Yeah. Wow. That's a very wild series of events that you had occur for you. Um,
I'm not bragging about them. I'm just saying that, right?
I'm curious. So you said that really reshaped your path, gave you a sense of perspective, how you weren't really interested anymore in kind of continuing life as is, but it gave you a deeper sense of urgency. You may have already had that, but it just kind of pushed that forward for you and led you to know that you have to really become a creator and kind of take that power back for yourself and really create the life that you knew you're meant for. What did that really manifest into over the years?
Well, I think it's been a few different things. I think I'm a firm believer, especially here in the US right now. And I know you have listeners all over, but it feels like from a politics perspective, it's just very extreme. It's either cut or dry. Like it just is what it is. And I don't really care if someone's on the left, if someone's on the right. I believe to the core of my being, it's entrepreneurs who are going to save the world. Someone who sees a need and then tries to fulfill that need, or someone who says, hey, I think I can do this better than the other person, right? Or I have a sense of, I have a story that needs to be told too, and they start telling it, right? So for me in particular, my background is in nonprofit, mainly with a faith-based ministry type deal. And I learned real quick, it's easy to put on a show, but behind the scenes, do you really practice what you preach?
Hmm.
And so that had a major effect on me. I was able to do some stuff in that arena, which was pretty cool. But I
Hmm.
kind of learned like it's easy to act one way when you have the spotlight on you, but then people would act a different way when the spotlight was off of them.
Yeah.
So there was a question of like, what's real in all of it, right? And so that took me to where I started getting out of that arena a little bit, worked in hospitality, kind of a thing, learning how to anticipate people's needs. That had a pretty large effect on me. Going into sales, I believe everything is sales, right? If you can sell something, you can pretty much create your own path, kind of a thing. So that's kind of been my journey. I'm very curious. I ask a lot of questions. Even went back and got a theology degree because
Wow.
I didn't want to just believe what somebody told me to believe. I wanted to question everything in a very healthy way. And that's what led me to Hope Lives and kind of what I'm doing now.
That's awesome. And you've mentioned faith and the background you had a few times, and I was curious, how has that been such a critical and core component of the path that you're on now? Like, how has that shaped you?
Well, it's my guiding light, right?
Hmm.
I think feelings are indicators, and we shouldn't ignore our feelings. If you have the heebie-jeebies, so to speak, you probably have that for a reason. The hair sticking up on the back of your neck, it's probably happening for a reason. And I think it's good to be in tune with that. But sometimes I think our feelings can lie to us. And sometimes our feelings they're not true. So
Hmm.
what's the principle behind it? And I think if you base a lot of things on feelings, you're going to be disappointed. If that's what you're looking to be for your end all be all, right? What's the principle? Because at the end of every principle, I believe there's a promise.
Hmm.
And is that promise being fulfilled? I don't push my faith on anybody else. I think there are some guiding principles that we can all kind of adhere to, right? I want to be a person of integrity and make sure that my word is my bond. I would love it if the world can go back to a handshake and a smile and someone does exactly what they promised they're going to do, right? Those are the people that I want to hang out around with, right? So I think for my faith, it's the core of who I am, and it's kind of it's my filter to process
Hmm.
in the people around it, right? And even if I get away from a religious background or viewpoint on that, there was a motivational speaker who was real popular in the late 80s, early 90s. His name was Zig Ziglar. He said something to the effect of, if you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything you want. I think a good person in sales asks questions. They have their own process. They're not just
Hmm.
trying to force something on somebody else. There you go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's a amazing perspective to move forward with. Something I'm curious of is right now in the developments you've done, the Hope Lives, what you're pursuing and experiencing, what were some of the perspectives or frames of mind that you used when things got tough, when things got difficult, that allowed you to kind of reframe and keep moving forward?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think I had the opportunity to work. It was called Rich Dad Education. It was based off a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. So
Hmm.
it was Robert Kiyosaki. The company I worked for had the license to all that. So I was able to travel around most of the United States and went as far east as Hong Kong. So now I'm meeting people from different walks of life, anywhere from Portland, Maine, down to Miami, Florida, over to San Diego, upwards of Seattle, even went over to Honolulu. But one of the things that I found out is that sometimes, especially when we start talking about those feelings, and I think mindset is so important. If you're familiar with the book Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Yeah.
listeners, it's a good book. Um, I don't think it's a great book, but if you watch Shark Tank and a lot of these entrepreneurs will anchor back to that book, I think personally the genius in that book or that series or that brand is actually Kiyosaki's second book called The Cash Flow Quadrant. And he talks about this ESBI, right? Left side thinking versus right side thinking. Are you an employee? Are you a small business owner? Are you a big business owner? Are you an investor? Are you using your time to make money or using your money to buy back your time kind of a thing, right? And at the end of the day, it's all a mindset. Nothing's necessarily good or bad. You just got to find where you are in it and kind of embrace it and decide if that's who you want to be, right?
Mhm.
But what I learned in traveling in all these different places, I think there are few universal languages. I think music is one of those. I think good music can really inspire somebody, and I don't care where they are or what walk of life they're in. I think food does that, sitting around a table. I think food is one of those things that brings people together.
Mhm.
And a lot of people, a lot of adults that I've met from around the world, a lot of small business owners, especially, they're trying to make sure that they can provide for their families. They're
Mhm.
trying to make sure their kids can live a better life, right? They're trying to make sure they're providing jobs for people who can do the same for their families, right? And any struggle that I have, or anytime I get lost in my head, and sometimes I think I'm the only one, well, that's a feeling, right? And it's an indicator. I need to embrace that, but it doesn't define me. And I know that I'm not alone. And I know I'm not the only one who's kind of going through it. Because if I'm going through it right now, sitting in Northeast Ohio, while I'm talking to you, I bet you, I can guarantee you there's someone in Orlando, Florida thinking the same thing,
Hmm.
or Kansas City, Missouri, or it just doesn't matter, right? And this is why I think serving others, right, is one of those things that can help kind of get you out of that funk. And just remember, right, you're not the only one. And sometimes your mess can be the message that somebody needs to kind of get out of that rut,
Yeah.
right? I think sometimes people are either hoping or praying or wishing they had your problem, right? Or your perceived life or something like that, right? So that's one of the reasons where hope lives in this thought about, well, today can be better or tomorrow can be better than today, right? I think the sense of hope is a universal language because I would venture to guess not everybody has a perfect life. Not everybody, right, was born into wealth and never had a problem and whatever, right?
Hmm.
So one of the things we talk a lot about with some of the clients I have in our community is that even though your past is tainted, your future is spotless, right? And it starts up in your brain. And sometimes the biggest critic we have is the person that you're looking at in the mirror. And I think that's why it's so important to have people around you, whether it's a coach, a mentor, a community that can see something in you that you can't necessarily see in yourself. I wouldn't be able to be where I'm at today. I wouldn't be able to overcome getting stuck under a raft, right? Without someone helping pull me out of the water, looking me in the eye as I'm probably throwing up water, going, it's going to be okay. And I have no idea what's going on in the moment, but we got through it.
Yeah. So basically, stepping back, gaining a sense of perspective on the situation, knowing that this isn't necessarily an experience that is like, oh, poor me, but being able to sympathize with this is a experience that others are probably having right now. And I have an opportunity right now to, instead of dwell on the pain or the mess of it, but instead see it as kind of like a gift that I can use what I learned from this experience, use what I learned from this pain to actually serve and help others and maybe expand the world around me. And then you also mentioned having strong communities, support systems that can kind of speak life into you when you have those moments where you yourself can't see the truth within you, in a sense. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I think in some of what I've experienced, I think there's a select few who volunteer for entrepreneurship. I
Mhm.
think some people are just kind of wired different. They don't want a boss or they don't want whatever, and they do okay. But I do believe there's a large portion of the population around the world that life happens. Maybe you're at your job and had the same job for the past 18, 20 years, and you walked in on a Monday morning or you're getting ready to leave on a Friday afternoon and downsizing happened. Or
Yeah.
maybe you had a loved one to get sick, right? Maybe you had to take care of an elderly parent or a sick child, right? And that traditional 9 to 5 is not working for you in the moment because of what's going on in your life. And then what I've also discovered is not everybody has a great support system. So it's like sometimes people get forced into this, right? Because they want a better life for their family, because they're trying to take care of loved ones, but they're faced with ridicule in their environment. And that's where we want to be able to bridge the gap. My biggest thing is I just want to be everybody's biggest cheerleader, right?
Mhm.
I just want to be the support system. I want to hear what people are passionate about. And I want to give a high five, hug around the neck saying, let's go get it, right? How do we go it? How do we do it? And when it gets hard, you're not alone, right? Because I know what it's like to be alone. Other people know what it's like to be alone, but to come out of that, right? I think if you've really gone through something like that and you've gotten out of it, you can look back and you can go like, oh, if it wasn't for this person, I wouldn't be able to be here today, right? And then how do you keep paying that forward? I think some people I really admire and respect the most are always looking to give back. They're not necessarily looking for handouts. I think they're looking for a hand up.
Mhm.
I think they're looking for that push. I think they're looking for that. I think sometimes people need that validation. Like, you got a great idea, bro. Let's get it.
Yeah.
Right. You got this. And not everybody has that.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. Something I'm curious of is right now in your business, what are some of the aspects of it that you find really meaningful or exciting right now?
I think right now I'm not a detail oriented guy. I am very much shiny object syndrome, big picture, squirrel, like what's the next thing? You don't want me to build a bridge, right? If I build a bridge, people will get hurt or die. It'll be called the death bridge, and you don't want that. It's just bad, but I will encourage you to build a bridge. I appreciate people who think like that. And I think right now we're in this very unique time um, in history or whatever you want to call it, um, where the advent of AI is really something. And
Yeah.
it's something over the last, I don't know, 6, 7 months, especially. I've just fought hard against, I don't want to do it. I want that human connection. I want that authentic. And I think I think even in this age of AI, I think people crave that even more, right?
Mhm.
However, just this past week or two, I've kind of learned some of the stuff that AI can do. I don't know how much AI is really going to replace people and their jobs, and that is beyond me. But what I'm learning with all of it, if you can harness the power of AI, you can really help yourself. You can help your family. It can help your impact on others in a very positive way. Stuff that I don't know. We were starting to roll out kind of a new marketing campaign. This concept of Hope Lives was around for a few years. We really haven't done much with it, but to kind of do a lot of the back end stuff, website design, funnel design, copywriting, some of that stuff, it gives us a good start, and we've been able to move faster. We still got to edit it, and we still got to mess around with it. And I have a 12-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter, and I'm starting to bring them along with me to learn some of this stuff. And instead of using AI to do like cash conversion cycles on spreadsheets like I need to do as the CEO of a business, right? And learning all that fun stuff, or how AI can help me with all that. I let the kids make cartoon pictures of me, and they thought it was great when they would tell the AI to make something funny with dad, and I'd have like 6 eyes, right? Because AI is still a little messed up, but we had a good time with it. And so that's what's kind of exciting right now. I think if learning how to harness that and make it work the way that you want it to work, I think it's exciting.
Yeah.
And so I'm definitely not fighting it anymore.
Mhm.
Learn it, trying to embrace it because I do believe it's like electricity, right? If you can harness it, if you know how to use it, if you respect the rules, it can be a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're at. And my team and I are thinking through that right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Definitely can see the rise of AI happening right now. And I definitely use it. I was using it right before this podcast. Uh, use the marketing calculation. So yeah, it's definitely powerful.
Yeah.
Awesome. This has been such a powerful conversation. Thank you for sharing so openly your insight and your story. Something I like to do at the end of these episodes is to ask if you had to give one insight to business owners and entrepreneurs out there trying to reach a new level of life while being fulfilled as they do it, what would you tell those creators out there?
I think sometimes for the longest time, I heard that time is the only resource that is non-renewable. So this is the only moment of time we ever have. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes, especially as small business owners, sometimes being the CEO of a small business, whether it's a one person show, a one man show, one woman show, or maybe you got a small team of 3, 10, 20 people, your mind's always going in a million different directions, right? And even maybe you're at the dinner table with your family, you're thinking about the emails that are coming through your phones or what you got to start doing the next day, or you start doom scrolling on the TikTok, right? During office hours or during a meeting, because maybe the meeting shouldn't be there. But whatever you do, it's not time anymore. I can be with my kids as an example, right? I can spend time with them, but I can also be doom scrolling, right? As whatever. And I think our time is limited. And so what we've done, and I would encourage everybody to do, is put your phones away sometimes. Sometimes you don't need to get the exact Instagram perfect moment, right? Sometimes you just got to be present and be engaged with the world going on around you. And if you don't capture that on your phone, it's okay. That's the encouragement I give.
Yeah, that's an excellent insight. I appreciate you sharing that with the world.
Yes, sir.
And for those of you out there listening, if this episode stirred something in you, if you feel like you're ready to grow from the inside out and create the kind of life and business that reflects your highest self, feel free to book a call at realityrealization.org/call. Now, before we wrap, Dan, where can listeners connect with you and learn more about what you're doing right now?
I'm very Googleable, right? I'll tell you right now, we don't have the fancy email list. I'm not going to put people on a 9,000, email campaign or whatever. We're very Googleable. Just Google me. We'll connect. I'm on all the socials, all that fun stuff. Um, but and I just the opportunity to be on your podcast. This was great. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it, man. It was wonderful experience. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thanks again for sharing such real and thoughtful perspectives. And to all of you tuning in, remember, you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. If you want to change your results, start by becoming the version of you who already has them. This is the Mindful Hustle. Until next time, be bold, be intentional, and keep realizing your reality.